Chairman DeFazio, Ranking Member Davis, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to share the views of our nation's small business professional truckers here today. My name is Todd Spencer. I am President and CEO of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. OOIDA is a trade association founded in 1973 by real truckers as a result of significant disruptions that occurred in the industry. When I say real truckers, I mean the men and women that actually deliver our nation's goods. All OOIDA officers and directors must come from behind the wheel. My background is from behind the wheel, and I still hold a commercial driver license. Small trucking businesses like those we represent account for 96% of registered motor carriers in the U.S. They are the safest and most diverse operators on our nation's roads. Our activities impact all sectors of the American economy on a daily basis. We move everything and anything wherever it needs to go. I commend the subcommittee for exploring the state of the trucking in America today, but I regret to inform you the current condition can only be defined as broken. Unfortunately, trucking has been fundamentally broken for years, and conditions show little sign of improving. Making a living as an over-the-road driver has never been easy. Our typical member will spend 250 nights or more away from home and family, dealing with way too much traffic and congestion, bad and unpredictable weather every year, and working around the schedules of all others in the supply chain. I know all of you on this subcommittee have heard about the driver shortage. I have too, pretty much my entire career in trucking. Guess what? They ain't one. Simple math tells the story. When the number you hear is 50,000 or some other number for the shortage, states issue over 400,000 new CDLs every year. Every year. What is incorrectly labeled as shortage is actually turnover, attrition. People attracted to trucking with the hopes of doing better for themselves and their family are quickly met with unkept promises and say goodbye to trucking. Not all of trucking is like this. LTL carriers don't complain about driver shortage, nor do private carriers. The reason is pay, benefits, and working conditions. Much of the growth that occurred in trucking during the past 2 years has come from among small carriers. They treat their drivers better. I really can't think of a worse response to the myth of a driver shortage than to lower the driving age or reduce the already low standard to get a CDL. This really is a highway safety issue. What's not a myth is that new drivers crash more often and younger drivers crash more often. There is no substitute for experience when it comes to safety, and doing things that help perpetuate the churn or driver turnover is not only counterproductive to safety, but it undermines the economics for all drivers. The economic model for paying drivers has been broken for a long time, despite the rhetoric you might hear about boosting pay and bonuses. If driver pay had been pegged to the Consumer Price Index in 1980, most of today's drivers would be bringing home 6 figures in wages. They don't make that because their value is set by what they can be replaced for, no matter how good or safe they may be, or even how many millions of safe miles they have driven. Another contributing factor is how they are paid. Most over-the-road drivers are paid exclusively by the mile with nothing for their time. Time stuff in traffic is an issue, to be sure, but the bigger one by far is time donated at shippers and receivers when trying to get in and out to stay on schedule and to comply with hours of service regulations. For too many drivers, this time can amount to 10 to 40 hours per week. And to add insult to this injury of time lost, we even have receivers and sometimes shippers now charging drivers fees of hundreds of dollars for being as little as 15 minutes late. This has to change if trucking is to attract and retain the good drivers we need to move the goods in the future. But it won't change as long as drivers can be detained and not be paid for their time. Going in hand with this is the exemption from the overtime pay that exists in the Fair Labor Standards Act for drivers operating under DOT regulations. The idea way back in the 1930s, when drivers were paid mostly by the hour, was to discourage really long work weeks. Now, with mileage pay as a norm, it does just the opposite. Highway safety is a top priority for our members and this committee. Where we are today is that we've never had more regulations, we've never had greater compliance with those regulations, and we've never had more enforcement of those regulations, and the crash rates are going up. This is just a copy of the regulations that all drivers are required to comply with. They're trained on virtually none, but they're there because they can be held responsible even when they should have no responsibility. CSA is a mandate from Congress that at best is only a partial measure.
Mr. Spencer, you're over 5 minutes. Would you summarize your remarks?
CSA is a mandate for Congress that at best is only a partial measure of compliance. It's a very, very flawed system. And no matter how you may torture that data, that's not going to change. ELDs, a monstrous mandate on small business truckers in the billions of dollars, realized no safety benefit whatsoever from that. No safety benefit, and if it has a direct impact on safety, it's quite likely a negative one because of the pressures it puts on drivers.
Thank you very much.